Hi guys, welcome to National Flooring Equipment's training segment this morning on how to remove glue off the floor. This is really sticky glue. It's taking my shoes off. So I don't want anybody to think that we're cheating. It's definitely nasty stuff. So this is a struggle that lots of people are looking for a solution for. So today, I'm Dave Bigham, and joining me is Tom Griffin. Tom?
I'm here to help Dave get out of any sticky situations we might get ourselves into. And as you can see, I have now glued myself to the floor. So I think we're ready to remove some of this before it becomes a safety hazard.
So quick, if you guys have questions about what we're doing or the processes, or even if maybe somebody has a trick that they'd like to share with us, type in chat, and we're super excited to hear any sticky jokes that you guys have.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. We're really having fun with this because this is something that really frustrates a lot of people.
Yep. And I'm gonna...
That was our global director of circus acts.
I'm glad that he saved Lila from that, because I don't think there's any way she would ever get off this floor.
We can't wait to take this glue off the floor because we've been sticking to it all week, waiting for this, and it's actually funny but not funny. So with all seriousness, obviously behind me we have VCT, vinyl composite tile, LVT, anything sheet vinyl. There's a couple of kinds of glue you guys are going to run into. Sticky, nasty glue like this typically is pretty predominant. And then sometimes if you take up sheet vinyl, you'll run into real wet, slippery glue, because a lot of places have moisture issues where the water's coming up through the slab and it kind of mixes in with the glue over the years. So when you take up the vinyl or the VCT, the glue's it's slippery, it's nasty. So it's hard to get traction within the equipment to get it up off the floor, and it's a struggle. So we're going to talk about how to remove really slippery glue and how to remove really sticky glue. If it's really actually real hard, thin glue, it's not a big deal. You could scrape it, grind it, use PCDs. You could shot blast it as long as it was actually thin, hard glue. But the sticky glue and the slimy glue, which I don't have slimy glue here. I can't make the building have moisture remediation, but we're gonna show you guys how to tackle all those problems. The first thing is we're gonna talk about is you can use lots of different pieces of equipment to remove glue. Some work better than others, and I always try to tell everybody, I've been doing this for 25 years, and I don't know everything. I know a lot, and I learned it from you guys. I've been on all these jobs where they need a solution for a struggle, for something that's just slowing them down and they're struggling to get it off the floor. And I've watched contractors successfully do all kinds of things to speed this up. And this is my opportunity with Tom to teach you guys some of that, how to return some of that information and some of these tricks. So if you're out there on a job site using a piece of National Flooring equipment, you can get the most out of it and quickly get through that job with less frustration and less swear words.
Because this is definitely
nasty,
a nasty, sticky situation. So what are we going to start with, Dave?
So we're going to actually start on the far side, and there's a couple of ways that guys are going to tackle this. First of all, take the sticky off. A lot of guys are going to use some grout. It's just Portland cement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some of this out on the floor.
I can spread it around for you.
Yeah, we're going to use this broom right here.
So we're going to use a broom today.
Just to lightly push it around.
Lightly push it around. You can also use a squeegee if you need to, so that you don't make quite as much dust.
Yeah, just keep it on this side because we're going to do water on that side.
Or even better, you can also use one of our ionizers to help keep the silica dust down on the job site.
So let's say that you're at a food processing plant, excuse me, lots of guys don't want to put a concrete dust and make dust that could be potentially hazardous. So I've seen a lot of guys in those situations use flour. Obviously bigger bags than this. You can go to Costco or Sam's or some big large warehouse store and buy this in bulk. It works exactly the same way as what Tom's doing with the bag of grout. Oh, I'm stuck. We're just gonna pour this out. So this is food grade. And if you're from Colorado, you have to use non-GMO, non-bleached,
heirloom grains.
farm-raised flour. You can't just use generic flour. All right. So you guys can imagine if we were running this machine on the sticky side over here without any of this, it's going to stick to the tires, it's going to take our shoes off, it's going to stick to the blade. And what we're going to do is, this is a 6280 Commander. It's a self-propelled walk-behind machine that National manufactures, and I've actually got a razor blade on it. And some of you guys might right off the bat say, you can't use a razor blade with this machine. That's not really true. Obviously the machine is designed to take 0.064 or 0.094 standard blades, but I have put an attachment on it, which is a 6280-500. And this is the top of the clamp. This actually has a much shorter slot, so the 1-inch blades or the razor blades will stick out of the swivel head attachment. So this edition actually gives you the swivel head like the larger National Riders, but it also gives you the ability to use a 1-inch blade or a razor blade. When you buy a razor blade from National, if you look in the catalog, the paper catalog or online, the part number for the razor blade, that part number will get you a box of 50 razor blades, and they come in different lengths. Obviously, if the floor's not real flat, you want a shorter blade so it'll fall into the lows and highs. If the floor's fairly flat, you want to use a longer razor blade. And keep in mind, these razor blades, these are very thin, and they're just like, for shaving your face. They don't last forever. It's a consumable. That's why you get a box of 50. Use it when it gets dull. You take it off, throw it away, put another one on there.
So Dave, 1-inch blade looks very similar to a razor blade.
Yes.
Are they interchangeable?
They are, as long as you have the right holder. You need to have a RBH or razor blade holder. So 1-inch blades are super popular. In my opinion, if you know about them, it's a pretty well kept secret for some reason. But 1-inch blades work great for taking up glue. Matter of fact, when we get over to this side, I have a razor blade head attachment on this Rider, which is a 5000, and it has a 1-inch blade. It looks like the razor blade, but it's actually a .094 blade. We're going to scrape this glue right off the floor. So let's set this down. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the attachments and how this works. But talk's great, but let's see what happens. You guys can see it's turning our glue into spaghetti, but it's definitely peeling it right off the floor. Razor blades do a really good job of getting it right down to the surface and leaving very little glue residue.
So you guys can also see how the Portland cement or the flour that we put down is really keeping that glue from re-adhering to the floor. I think that's one of the challenges that you could face out on the job site, Dave, especially if you're removing the glue and then driving back over it with the machine or your shoes, all you're going to do is re-adhere it to the floor. So you really want to make sure you're able to get it off of the floor. And I think this is as long as you can use Portland cement or a flour in the situation that you're in, this is a really good way to make sure that you don't re-adhere it to the floor.
This is just a little hand scraper that I picked up at a home improvement store. I don't think National sells them, but it's great for pushing your glue into a pile once you've removed it mechanically. You guys can see, just did a really good job. There's one more trick on the large and the small machines. If you want to, you can take Pam cooking spray, like literally like you'd spray in your pan to keep it from sticking at home. Spray it on your tooling holders and your blades, and it'll keep the glue from sticking to it. To the extent a lot of guys I see spray a majority of the surface area of their machine, so if they're on a glue removal job, it doesn't get all over their machine, and cleanup's a lot easier.
I was going to say, so would you call Pam kind of like the Band-Aid of the glue removal? Band-Aids are there so germs don't stick to you?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm the comic relief. I got to make sure that we don't get too stuck in our ways today.
So let's go back to another trick where you don't want the mess of some kind of Portland cement or some kind of grout on the floor, but you still need to remove the glue, and this glue's sticky, so it's going to be a real struggle to take it up. So there's another trick that I learned from a bunch of guys. The warmer it is, the more pliable the glue gets. So what they were doing, works really great, I actually learned it, they were putting ice in the water tank of their grinders. On a larger job later, I saw guys actually doing this, and normally I do this way in advance, but we want to try not to make as big a mess as we look like we're making. They poured water on the floor, and then they bought bags of ice from 7-Eleven, and they let it sit for, I don't know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, till it got good and cold. And when the glue's cold, it actually comes up a lot easier. And if you guys can see, I'm walking on this, it's no longer sticking to my shoes. So the more ice, the better.
So keep going.
Yeah, let's put what we got down. And this works for the walk-behinds or the ride-on machines. And if you're going to use a grinder, you can put some ice on the floor, and you can actually put some ice in your water tank if you have a machine that is capable of grinding wet and dry. So they'll take this and they'll just move it around the floor, getting it nice and cold. Hopefully they have the heat off and the air conditioner on too, before this removal started in the morning. So I'm going to hop on this National 5000 rider. It's one of our battery-powered machines, and we're going to scrape some of this glue. And if you guys watch, I'm going to try to not make long runs where I'm running over the glue that I've already taken up. I'm going to try to push it into an upside-down rainbow or a frown. So I'm going to try to keep everything in front of me if possible. We'll see how that works.
And you're doing that because the weight of this machine, driving over that adhesive with those tires, you're just going to undo all of the work you just did.
And it's going to stick to your tires. And so
could bog you down. Dang, Dave.
This has a 1-inch blade on it that looks like that razor blade, but it's just a 1-inch blade. If you guys can imagine if I was doing this where I was taking our shoes off without this ice water, would not be working like this. This is a great trick. I saw these guys do that and I was like, ooh, you guys are geniuses. I wanted to be them when I grew up for sure. I'm just trying to keep as much of the glue in front of me as possible so I don't run back over it. Step on me. Nice. Thank you, sir. Oops, picked up some more. So the longer the ice sits on here, really the more effective it is. We just put it down and it's already working, but if we let it sit here about 30 minutes, this would work even better, literally. I'm just trying to keep all the material as much as I can in front of me so I'm not rerunning back over it over and over and just recreating the same work that I just did. All right, now let's see. I'm going to actually swing around a little bit. Tom, will you unplug that machine so I can come around? We're going to try this same method on where we've used powder instead of ice with the 5000. Thanks, thanks, boss man. All right, here we go. This is working amazingly well. Without the grout or the flour, it's really hard to keep from smearing the glue all over the place, but I'm not. I'm leaving it in piles at the end of every push. If you guys got questions, type them in.
Yep, we're here for you guys today. If you've got any questions or want to share a sticky floor situation that you've gotten into on the job site, type away, share it with us. We'd love to hear it.
So it appears that either way it looks messy, but compared to just scraping this glue up and having it on my tires and all over the place, this is not messy at all. This is super effective, and there's really no glue left on my floor. This rescrape is working amazingly well.
Dave, the rescrape is going really well, but what if the customer specs that there absolutely has to be no glue left on the floor whatsoever when you're done? What would the next step be?
So glue removal, that's a great question, Tom. I always tell guys and they don't want to hear it because they think you're trying to sell them. But glue removal is always a two-step process. So I've really removed a majority of the glue, but there's still residue on the floor no matter what. So in order to get that residue up, you're going to have to grind it or blast it. You're going to have to prep it in some way to open up the surface and give it a profile and to clean the residue, which would be a bond breaker, off the floor. Shut this shutter off.
That floor is really clean, Dave.
So this is really clean, and it's not sticky, and literally you can take a shovel, or I like the razor blade just because if it is stuck a little bit, you can move it.
Almost looks like you made pasta out of adhesive.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's want to eat this one, though.
This is great. So now I've got it in a pile where I can shovel it up and get rid of it no problem. Where if this was still sticky glue, it would not be working like this. You guys got any questions about these tricks? What about the edges is the next question I get, Dave. I try to use a diamond cup wheel with a 7-inch grinder to get along the edges, and it didn't work very well. If you're going to use a diamond cup wheel, you'd be best if you could find a variable speed grinder and turn the speed down, but a PCD cup wheel also works really well. And most of the time, if guys are going to do this, they're going to use sand. And what I actually prefer that I think works better than sand is oil dry. And not the big, super cheap oil dry. You hold that for a second.
Yep. I got you.
I like the kitty litter oil dry. And if you can't find oil dry, you can run to your favorite grocery store and buy some kitty litter, which is the same as oil dry and probably a lot cheaper. And they'll put it on the glue. And when they run their grinder, it kind of works like the flour or the grout or the water. It helps ball it up and keeps it from sticking. Oil dry or kitty litter is great for your edges for your hand tools. If you guys haven't tried that, you should try it right away. So, another way to take up glue is, believe it or not, a scarifier. But not just a scarifier, you have to have the right kind of drum on it. This drum basically consists of TSR teeth, which pick away at the glue. I still like to use some kind of flour or grout or mortar mix or some kind of Portland cement to keep it from gumming up on my teeth. You can also use attachments on grinders, and I have some that are all built up for show and tell for a good reason. This is what can happen to your TSR teeth after a while, or if you choose to use 1-inch carbides on a grinder, this is also what can happen, and this is hard. That glue right there is hard. So basically this has become ineffective. So how do I fix this, Dave? I'm gonna show you guys another great trick that's directly related to how do I take glue up off the floor. Back in the day, we used to take a bucket and we did not put gasoline in the bucket. I can neither confirm nor deny that statement at this time.
Wink, wink.
So in today's world, being legitimate is much better. They sell this, it's called adhesive removal. It also comes in gallons and 5 gallons. I don't need that much for show and tell, so I just bought a small one. And what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take this adhesive removal and I'm gonna put a whole bunch in this bucket. And I'm gonna put my tooling that's all gummy into this bucket and let it soak. When I'm done, I have another bucket and I have some screen. Well, Dave, I don't have any screen. Well, I bought that really pretty screen right there at Home Depot for about $6 and cut it in half, bent it up. If that's too fancy for you, you can use expanded metal. I also bought this at a home improvement store for about $8. You can cut it up into smaller pieces, wrap it around there. And why am I gonna do that? This has adhesive removal and tools in it that now are degummed. I'm gonna pour and make a mess and spill it everywhere. That's why there's nothing in there. I'm gonna pour the adhesive removal through the screen and fill this bucket up, and my tools are gonna stay on the top so I can take them, wipe them off, put them back on my tooling and go back to work.
And reuse the adhesive remover.
Reuse the adhesive remover because it's expensive. If you guys have questions about that, you can reach out to me later. I'm Dave Bigham. My phone's on 24/7. You guys can reach out to me anytime. Tom Griffin's always available. And one great part about National is if we're moving really fast on this video and you want to ask a little more specific question, you can reach out to us, and whoever answers the phone is likely almost guaranteed going to be an industry expert. National's been around since 1968. We can answer your questions. We can help you solve. It's not just about the equipment. The equipment's great, but you got to know how to use the things around you to defeat these real problems that you run into in life. This sticky glue is nasty, and I've run into this over and over and over and over. So let's back up just a little bit. Dave, you mentioned really slippery glue for moisture remediation jobs where you've taken up the VCT or the laminate and it's real slippery, so it's hard to get your rider to get grip or your walk behind. That's once again where I go back to kitty litter or oil dry and I spread it out on the floor, and it helps take some of that moisture out of it, but it also gives you a ton of traction. So I'll spread that over an area and I'll scrape that whole area just like I did in one direction, keeping it in front of me. So the kitty litter or the oil dry, whichever you prefer, will help you defeat that really slippery glue. It'll help you with your traction. I used to slide around all over the place and it wasn't very effective until I saw a guy put the kitty litter all over a big section with his rider and scraped it up, and I went ding, 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 the light came on and I knew exactly what he was doing and why. It was a beautiful thing. Razor blades work really well. 1-inch blades work really well. A razor blade's going to cut a little bit closer and a little bit better removal than a 1-inch blade, but a 1-inch blade a lot of times will do enough to get a bulk of it off so you can move on to the next step of removal or your next installation if there's no spec, if you're that kind of contractor where you're like, that's good enough for me. Tom, you have anything to add?
I don't think I have anything to add. I think you've been pretty thorough on this. Are there any questions out there? Anything that we can answer?
We got tons of people online watching us, so yes, yeah. We have a question.
Should a buyer or renter be worried about rust buildup using the ice water technique over time, or is it something we should warn a potential renter, buyer about?
The question is, should an end user or somebody that owns this equipment worry about the ice water causing rust? I would say that, first of all, we don't just paint our equipment at National, it's powder coated. So it's designed for the elements, it's industrial equipment. I don't think the ice water, it's mostly gonna be on your rubber wheels and on your swivel head attachment on the front. And if you're using some PAM or some kind of lubricant, it's gonna protect it from the water anyway, right off the bat. The only other thing I can tell you guys, since that question came up, is I tend to, we put this on the wrong way for a reason so we could show, this is what you typically see with a swivel head holder. Well, when you go to take up glue or any other material, if you're not using a lubricant, it's gonna fill up in these slots. It makes it very hard to change your blades. So I like to spray it with some kind of, I use PAM. I prefer the butter PAM. But the right way to install your blades and use this holder on the machine is like this. Once the blade's on it, the glue comes up here and it doesn't really have anything to hold on to or fill up, and it protects your bolts from being very difficult to remove later. And if I needed to, I can obviously soak this head in the solvent removal, but I just prefer to start like this and always run my swivel head attachment like this so it doesn't have any area to fall into. All right, more questions? Jokes? Questions? Jokes?
Anyone have a good sticky situation joke?
All right, no jokes. Okay, so are we? What about giving away a hat today or something? Giving away a Ferrari, a mansion, a private island. Next session, we're giving away something extravagant. So in an hour is our hour and a half. 1 o'clock. Mountain Standard Time. 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
So 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time,
And
we're going to be talking about epoxy.
How to remove epoxy, removal and prep. We also have some tricks for that. And if you guys can tune in, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to teach you something that you're going to go, really? How come I didn't know that? Because when somebody taught me that, I said, really? I didn't know that. How come somebody didn't tell me that? So it's going to be a fun session. Tom,
like it.
One last thing to go
One
over?
last thing on our way out, guys. You notice we had a lot of silica dust on the ground today with Portland cement. We had a lot of flour. If you're shot blasting or prepping a surface, you know how dusty environments can get. National sells a great machine called an ionizer, our Ion 4K and our Ion 1K. They pull dust and contaminants out of the ground and drive it, or out of the air and drive it to the ground, providing clean, safe, breathable air to your employees, to yourselves, to your customers, and even in your own home. We are running a special currently on our first generation machine, so if you are interested in learning more about breathing the best air that you can, please give us a shout and we would love to talk to you about it. Thanks so much. Dave, thanks for getting us out of some really sticky situations today.
You bet,
I
man.
appreciate it.
Thanks for
And,
joining us, guys. Next session is going to be great. Log in.
We'll see you guys in a couple hours.